Very commonly, when we pull entities out of a document, when we extract entities, what we really want is not the entity itself, but a structured form of the entity. And so in the case of something like a date, we want to know that if the date in text is November 5th, 1992, we actually want to know that the month is the 11th month of the year, the day is the 5th day, and the year is 1992, in a very structured format that means any downstream system can actually ingest this information. This process is called normalization and is very critical to being able to do really cool and interesting things with data in contracts. In particular, if we're thinking about, say, the end date of a contract, well, you can then, if you can get a normalized version of this end date, you can then determine if a contract's maybe expired or not. Though, of course, this is slightly more complicated than just checking the end date. You then need to maybe have some other understanding of, the auto-renewal clause or the renewal terms to determine if there is actually an auto-renewal. But that's a separate topic. Instead, when we think of normalization, we think of really forming structured data out of entities, very commonly entities anyways. The other benefit is that we can then start doing interesting calculations. We might want to sit there and pull out, say, the pricing terms of a bulk order. And that might be in a particular currency, that might be in American dollars, but we want to be able to convert it to, say, euros. In which case, if we have currency normalization, we can detect that the dollar value is in USD, and then we can potentially use some additional math to convert that value into its equivalent euro value, perhaps using the date of the contract to then motivate the correct conversion. Again, none of this is possible or easily possible without having something like normalization. Of course, not all entities are always normalizable. One of the most interesting entities which we believed should be easily normalizable is the start date of a contract. In fact, very commonly, the start date of a contract is in reference to a defined term, or it's reference to when the contract is signed, or 3 months after the contract is signed, or the commencement date, or the execution date, or some other term that isn't actually defined as a date. And so when you deal with things like normalization, you also have to understand very commonly about the content that you're trying to normalize. And in some cases, it might not be easily normalizable without additional functionality like, say, defined term recognition and potentially linking between defined terms within a document or even across documents. Because again, it might refer to some date outlined in a master service agreement with a very particular agreement for a local vendor. So normalization, while very critical to doing very interesting things with data in contracts, is also more nuanced than just taking a date, putting it in a structured format. It's understanding what that data represents and how you might then be able to use it in conjunction with other data.